a few WhatsApps, but I'm sure that those technicalities they will attend to. If any of the colleagues are reaching out to you, I am not going to have a look at my phone, so please just ask them to contact my PA, Ms. Dale Saville, and she will be of assistance to you. So we have a few items on the agenda, but I think more importantly is to focus on what the story is that we want to tell. And I'm going to ask Grant now to commence our program with our first video clip. Grant, over to you.
Thanks, Ilham. Let me hit play here, and I hope that all the audio and video works correctly.
Can't hear the sound, Grant.
For those of you who may not know much about my background, I grew up in a working class neighborhood on the south side of Chicago. We lived in a really small apartment. I often woke up at 4 in the morning when the house was finally quiet, just so that I could concentrate and finish my schoolwork. My parents told me every day I could do anything. I could grow up to be a doctor, a lawyer, a scientist, whatever, but only if I worked as hard as I could to succeed in school. I did everything in my power to be a good student. I dreamed of one day going to one of the best universities in America. But despite my efforts, there were still people in my life who told me that I was setting my sights too high, that a girl like me couldn't get into an elite university. And after a while, I started to wonder, well, maybe I was dreaming too big. And the fact that I was a girl and that I was Black, well, that certainly didn't help things either. You know what it's like when a family struggles to make ends meet. And the world needs more girls like you growing up to lead our parliaments and our boardrooms and our courtrooms and our universities. We need you. And that starts with making sure that every girl on this planet has the kinds of opportunities you all have to get the education and to succeed. As you heard, right now there are more than 62 million girls around the world who are not in school. Girls whose families don't think they're worthy of an education or they can't afford it. Girls like Malala Yousafzai, who are assaulted, kidnapped, or killed just for trying to learn. One of these girls could have the potential to cure cancer or start a business that transforms an industry or become the next president or prime minister who inspires her country. I see women who are going to win elections and science competitions and arts awards. I see leaders who will inspire folks not just here in Tower Hamlets, but all across the country and all around the world. And that's what I see, because I know what's inside of girls like you and like me. I know how hard we'll fight for our families, how deeply we care about our communities, how much of a difference we can make for those around us. And I've seen it again and again and again, that what our parents told us really is true, that if we get our education, we can do anything. We can lift up ourselves to heights we could never imagine. We can pay forward all of the love and support that our families have poured into us. And we can truly be, as Dr. Ogden says, builders of a new day. That is your work. That's my hope for you.
Thank you very much, Grant. I'm sure quite a bit of that story we can relate to. It resonates with each and every one of us here today. Perhaps not all of it, but some pieces of it. So let's take the lessons that we have learned, that we continue to share in our different spaces, and we begin to understand the why and continuously ask the question why, so that the intent remains what it used to be. We know that there are a lot of challenges facing sport today, colleagues, in particular women and girls. We celebrate women and girls during the month of August, but yet we understand the importance of celebrating women and girls every single day. We know that the month of August is special, but the question remains, what next? So I hope that as we listen to the various stories, that we will take out of the different stories the why, the what next, and how can we, as colleagues within the university sports space, continue to make a difference. So without further delay, I'm going to ask Ms. Nomsa Mahlangu, our USA president, to tell her story. Over to you, Nomsa.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Why did I have to be the first one, Ilham?
It's called protocol.
No, man, protocol, I must speak last. No, I'm kidding.
And see how
anyway.
beautiful you look. Very nice. So it's a good way to kick off the program.
Yeah, well, thank you. And yeah, colleagues, good morning. My story is a very long, winding story. I don't know, there's some feedback.
Yes,
is it me?
Let me put off my...
Okay, now I hope it sounds much better. So my journey started off back at Vista University in Mamelodi. And my story started with a colleague who now works at Smarty Sport, Jerry Laka. Myself and Jerry were student activists at Vista Mamelodi. Jerry belonged to PASO and I belonged to SASCO. But our journey came together when we both belonged to the Sports Council. And as you all know, Vista was really a non-sporting institution. So within the Sports Council, we then decided that, we must ensure that at least we have a sports officer in the institution. And amongst ourselves, we caucused and we ensured that Jerry became our sports officer. So that is how his journey started in sport, yet he was studying law at that particular time. But when then we had him as a sports officer, I realized that, man, there's a problem here. There's almost everything for men, but there's basically netball for women. So I decided with a few of my other friends to start a football team at Vista Mamelodi. And our team was not the best, and I was the worst player on the field, but I decided to play because I saw myself as a solidarity player. And Connie Madima can attest to this. They always beat us whenever we played TUT because they knew if Nomsa was on the goals, they will score as many goals as possible. And if I was a defender, well, they would still score because I was not the best player. However, my passion for football grew. That's why I choose to speak about my football story. And as my passion for football grew, I then served in SASU Football Gauteng back then. And I had a friend and mentor in Floyd Mbele. Some of you would know who Floyd is. And I had to learn a lot from him, but then I got introduced to a woman called Gidinimezi Choma, who has now passed on, may her soul rest in peace. And she then became my mentor. And in my journey, she taught me a lot of lessons. And through SASU Football Gauteng, I was then introduced to SASU Football nationally, where I think I started meeting people like Ilham, Mandla Kakai at the different USA tournaments. And as my journey continued at Vista, I realized that, yes, I'm studying teaching, but I really don't want to be a teacher. So at some point, I left Vista Mamelodi, and I then became a sports administrator at SAFA Gauteng North. Well, obviously, it's an administration in the football fraternity. And I worked for them for about 2 years. And in the process, I then got a scholarship to go and study at the Free State University to study event and facility management. So when I got to the Free State University, I realized, man, this thing, there's still no women's football. So I was lucky enough to have a sports director there in the name of Ilhaam Groenewald, who was welcoming, and may his soul rest in peace as well. He passed on sometime this year. And Wam'evi listened to what I had to say to him, because remember, I'm a new student at this university, but I had known him within the SASU fraternity. And I said to him, Wam'evi, can we please start a women's football team? And he said to me, who's going to start the team? And I said, I will start it. And he said, I don't have money to pay you. And I said to him, I don't want money. I just want an opportunity. He said to me, okay, we'll give you the support that you want. At that particular time, there was an administrator who was responsible for football at Free State University in the name of Reggie Tladi. So I had to work with Reggie to start a football team. A few months later, Wam'evi called me and he offered me a position as a student assistant. Remember, I went to the Free State University to study, but because of the passion that I had for the game, I then got an opportunity to start earning whilst I'm studying. A few years later, he then sat me down and said, I think you are ready to be a sports officer. And for me, lucky enough, I didn't have to go through an interview to have these opportunities, but it was me using my passion and using the sports that I like to be able to get those opportunities. However, my journey at the Free State University was very interesting when I became a sports officer, in the sense that I also had to personally invest in the football club for the football club to work. Investment in the sense that when we recruited players from other provinces, some of them I've had to live with them in my own house. My house turned out to be a home for my child, Nomfundo, who really didn't understand, why does my mother have to continuously buy soccer boots when I don't play soccer myself? Because every time there was a sale at any sports shop, I would really buy soccer boots, regardless of what size it was. And the reason for that was for me to ensure that the ladies that I recruited to come and play don't have to deal with challenges of not having soccer boots. A few of the players that ended up playing football at the Free State University, they got there not even knowing how to trap a ball. One of them is now a senior manager at UJ, and that particular person is Nompilo Zondi. When she got to Free State, she said she wanted to play netball. She's a netballer, and I said to her, hey, it's gonna be difficult to make it to Berta's team. I think I saw Berta somewhere here. So for you to make it, you can easily walk into the university's football team. So that is how football then grew at the Free State University. But I think most importantly for me, the journey was not about me as an individual, but it was about me and the other students and women around me. Now, as these things continued, you tend to meet a lot of young women that get involved in sports. Some of them it is by default, some of them it is by plan, but most importantly, most of us that find ourselves having careers in sport, it was not the first thing that you wanted to do, because I know, Ilhaam, you were working as an administrator yourself at some point, but the journeys that we go through are never easy. And in the journey of leadership, you get kicked out in a number of boards, not because you are not capable, but because we do not have the difficult conversations as women, where very few people find it comfortable to have a discussion on why do you want to be X in a particular board, because these are things that we need to talk about. And Ilhaam earlier on spoke about the challenges that South Africa is facing. And for me today, I would like us to focus on what is it that we can do in our individual journeys to ensure that we resolve the challenges that South Africa is facing in sport. And, you know, a lot of us speak about transformation, but my question is, what am I doing as Nomsamahlangu to ensure that transformation happens? So my journey will continue, and it is continuing, because I don't want this conversation to be about me and the other women that are sharing their journeys. But I'd like us, I'm sorry to do this, I'd like us to have conversations with the women that are on the platform to say, what do we do to resolve the problems that we have within universities, but most importantly, within South African sport, the challenges that we face at leadership level. Governance is a problem in South Africa. And what is it that we do as universities to resolve those challenges? Let me stop there, because you know I can speak the whole day. You are muted.
That's 100 Rand in the bag. So anybody that who doesn't unmute themselves before the time, we put 100 Rand in the kitty. Nomsa, that goes towards the alumni fund for USA. So Nomsa, that's why I decided to have you kick off the conversations, because I knew that you would share one or two other important factors other than your personal journey. I'm going to ask Dumisani Chauke from TUT to tell her story. She's asked me to also be excused because she's got a film shoot happening. So hopefully she'll share some of that exciting content with us as soon as she's done. Dumisani, over to you. I hope she's online. Dumisani?
Ilhaam, I just got a message from Jerry saying that Dumisani is struggling to connect. If you just give us a minute or two, we're just trying to sort it out so that we're able to get her online.
Yeah, I hope she can stay with us. All right, I'm going to then ask Rihanna Besaidnout from Tux. Rihanna, over to you.
Hello, everybody. From a nice and warmer Pretoria that I think you are experiencing in Cape Town. And thank you, Ilhaam, for the invitation. It's quite an honor to share a platform with all you ladies. I'm watching as they come up, and I saw the invitation. And yes, colleagues, great to speak to you all. And I can't wait to see all of you next to the netball court again. I tell you, we're missing that adrenaline. It's terrible. We are suffering badly. My personal story started off, I think sport is in my genes and my husband's genes, and I did actually do motor racing. I've got my national colors in motor racing. I'm completely white. I always played netball at school level, at senior level. My husband is a keen rugby player, played for the Blue Buller, and my daughter got double green and gold in fencing and trampoline. So whilst after I've studied, I entered a very serious corporate world, a competitive corporate world in the insurance industry. I stayed there for 10 years. It taught me a lot of lessons. But also after 10 years, when I started a family, I realized that this is not the true life. Juggling the balls, because I worked in the mid-city center of Johannesburg, I had to give time to my daughter. And started, but I must be honest, within 2 years, I was bored. I couldn't just do that. And then my journey started as a volunteer in the sporting world. I coached at the Technikon of Pretoria. We participated in the SASU, still at that stage, and I was still very young. But it was fantastic. And then I realized, I started getting hooked on this culture of student life. Really knowing where I can make a difference. I met Mr. van der Walt. I got involved with Tux Sport. I became the administrator for the South Africa Gymnastic Federation for trampoline and tumbling. Spent a couple of years on that platform, a lot of years. When you're a mom and your kid does stuff, you get involved. You can't just sit and watch. That's not my personality. I need to get involved. So yes, became the administrator there. Made a difference in the world of gymnastics, went through the transformation periods there, attended World world championships, world senior championships. It was amazing. All as a volunteer. I then still passionate about netball, was already coaching at the University of Pretoria with Elise Kotze and Coach Jenny van Dijk. I used to have the Tuks 2 team, the senior players, you know, that we could have fun and not that serious netball all the time. And yes, the opportunity to become a Tuks netball manager came about, and obviously I grabbed it. That would be my first paying job after a couple of years, you know, spending in the corporate life. And I think my husband was quite relieved that his wife now joined something that could at least pay and made her happy. But after entering the management side of sport, I quickly realized that to be able to make a difference, I had to serve. I had to serve on structures. I had to learn what is happening within structures to be able to make a difference. And obviously to get to know the operational side of things. You know, it's easy when you're a coach. Coaches just pitch and there's toilet paper in the bathroom and everything is just set up. Their main thing is they just want to coach. They don't know the story behind the story. I was involved in the story behind the story, and I had to go through, you know, a lot of things to make a difference. So I've been serving on the USA structure for many, many years for netball. First as a tournament director, arranging all those USA competitions, building from 29 teams to, I think last time I saw it was 58 teams participating, different leagues, different sections, very competitive. Soon realized that we had to do a couple of changes there to give equal opportunities and to make the same platform available to all. And yes, still serving on that structure as a volunteer, learning every day. But also a structure like that puts you in a position where you become involved in your district. So I served in my local district, which is Tshwane, as a vice chairperson, but I'm also the Gauteng netball president. So the one leads to the other. So where you were involved a bit on university level, a bit on, now you're involved on a provincial level, where it's different ballgame. I all of a sudden, I think, joined Politics 101, which nobody really prepared you well enough. But I enjoy it because we realized the value of our experience. And I learned a lot from the USA structure, the discipline, you know, the policies, the stuff like that. And I could carry it forward to one of the biggest provincial leaders in netball. You know, I don't know if the Western Cape is tuned in. They don't like me when I say this, but Gauteng is actually the home of champions. And we've been doing it for quite a couple of years. But the other thing that I learned as a person is that I really, truly believe there's greatness in each and every student. And with that attitude, I know that when they cross my path, I can make a difference. I need to teach them how to be extraordinary. Not on the netball court or between the lines, but find that thing that makes them extraordinary because they were born with that, and help them develop into that. And that, for me, I think is the reason why 80% of my world is volunteer work without the salary check. The rest is the work that I do with Tuks Sport, which is unbelievable in their support structure as a manager and a leader. And I really believe that if we believe in the youth, we can make the difference. Now with all the different movements in netball, with the gender-based violence, with the Black Lives Matters, we as leaders are in positions where we need to listen, we need to learn, and we need to educate, because we are the leaders that can educate. You know, we can make policy changes, we can make rule changes, but we must be prepared to listen and learn. And yeah, like at my age, I'm definitely learning every day about Politics 101, I can promise you. And thank you, Ilhaam, for this opportunity.
Thank you very much for telling your story. I'm going to ask Melissa from UCT to tell us her story.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here. As you heard, my name is Melissa Au from University of Cape Town, and my story goes as follows. So I come from a keen sporting family. Everybody in my home just had a ball and played a sport. So when I got to grade 1, when I touched the hockey stick, it was love at first touch. So I grew up and I played hockey. And it was when I was in grade 11 that I went to the final rounds of the provincial hockey trials, and I was called aside by the coach to say that should you make the team, you will have to pay, I think at that time it was 4,000 Rand to go on the IPT tour. You know, so I was from a family that could not afford that. So I had to pull out, right? So I thought to myself that, okay, if I play hockey, you know, obviously I would like to play for SA, but in order to play for SA, you have to play for the province. And if it's going to cost me 4,000 or 5,000 Rand to play for the province, then it's no use me playing hockey, because I will never get to where I would like to be. So I made the decision that to pull out of the trials, but also I made the decision that I would like to be a sports manager, because I wanted to be part of the change that's going to make sure that if you want to play sport, resources won't hold you back, right? So I thought, like, okay, I want to be part of the change. I'm going to be a sports manager, and I'm going to be the best. So after matric, I told my mom that I want to do sport management. You know, so you're from a home in the township and you say sport what? And I say sport manager. And she asked me, are there jobs in this? So I said yes. So she said, okay, be the best that you can be, you know. So my friends were being convinced that they must be teachers and they must be policemen, and my mom was saying, okay, you can go and do this as long as you get a job. All right. So I do sport management at the then P Technicon. Now it's an NMMU. And for the first time in my life, I'm getting distinctions. Now, I've always been an average kid in school. If I have a 50%, I'm happy. If I have a 60, whoo, sharp. You know, so now I'm in tertiary doing sport management and I'm getting distinctions. And my mom was asking, whose report is that? You know, so it went well. It went great. You know, so okay. So I got my internship at EP Rugby. Did my internship there. And for my first job, there was no job advert. There was no, you must apply for this. I went to the CEO of a rugby franchise and I convinced him that he needed me in his company more than I needed him. And I was hired on the spot. So my first full-time job was at the Southern Spears rugby franchise. Unfortunately, a few months later, we were liquidated. So I found myself unemployed. Then I went to work at a FPT college as a sport facilitator. From then on, I went to be a sport coordinator, and I was reading that this FPT college would be going under. So I took the bold decision to go to Rhodes University and be a secretary in the sports department. So from being a sports coordinator, I went down to be a sports admin person. So at Rhodes, I moved up the ranks and soon became a sports officer. And it was there where I worked with the great Mandla. And I got my first opportunity to serve USA as the USA Secretary of USA Eastern Cape. From then on, at Rhodes, I hosted my first USA, which was USA Squash. And for me, it was a big achievement because I had never hosted, you know, yeah. So from then on, I went to TUT. And when I shared with my friends that I'm going to TUT, that they were like, how dang, are you sure? All of that, you know? And it was the best time of my life. I was there for about a year only, and I had to move back to PE. And then I went over to NMMU for 3 years, and now I'm at UCT. And within my sport, now I've found I am fusing what I believe is my calling, which is theology, and I'm finding the balance of sports ministry. You know, so I'm exploring that. So it's my two callings, sports and sports and ministry. You know, so it's been a great couple of years of learning, meeting people, impacting the lives of students, and I really don't feel like I've got a job. I feel like I really go out and do what I love and happen to get paid. So yeah, it's I would not be anywhere else. Yeah, that's me.
Thanks very much, Melissa. Up next is my colleague Candice Williams. Candice, over to you.
So the one day where the boss lady asked that we wear caps, I actually had my hair done. So it is dry.
Take that
It's
off,
usually,
yes.
it's usually in a bun.
Because
So
we're
just
not
for
used
today.
to you, we are not used to you blow drying your hair, so that is definitely a treat for today's event. So
Yeah, so for today it's dry. Okay, so when the boss lady asked me to share my story, I actually didn't realize how long I've been in student sport. So my story is as follows. My family has always been into sport. My parents played club netball and football until the early 30s. In school, I participated in athletics, softball, and netball, and attained Western Province colors in athletics and netball. Now, in school, I was considered tall, so I could do long jump. Now I'm short, so don't judge. And then I matriculated in 2001, and my tertiary education started at Cape Technikon in 2002. My course was sport management, and it covered a holistic management syllabus, but it was sport related. In 2004 was my third year, and it was also the merging of institutions, which was Cape Technikon and Peninsula Technikon. And then it was also my practical year. Now, back then, the course coordinators approached companies and departments to consider taking on student assistance for in-service training, which was a requirement for us to complete our diplomas. I applied at Cape Tech Sport, and myself and two other classmates were appointed on a 6-month contract. The late Ken Rinquest and Ms. Annelies Swartz was the first sport development officers that I met, and I was working with them. So the codes that I was involved in as a student assistant was judo, surfing, netball, and basketball. I graduated with a diploma which was the last for Cape Technikon in 2004, and then I did my BTech over 2 years at CPUT. Now this allowed me to work and study during 2005 and 2006. At the end of 2006, I graduated with my BTech, and for the first part of 2007 in January and February, I was unemployed. Jobs were scarce. Then fortunately, one of the sport development officers went on maternity leave, and Ken asked if I'd be interested in a contract position. Grabbed it with both hands. From March to end of December, I was in a contract position at CPUT Sport. And then in October of 2007, Karen Swart at Marty's Sport was possibly looking for a club administrator, which she contacted Annelies Swartz about. Annelie recommended that I apply for it. And then nothing came of it for a good few weeks. In November 2007, Ken confirmed that they can't offer me a contract at CPUT. So obviously it's not the best news, but then not too long after that, Karen contacted me and asked me if I'd be interested in applying for the netball administrator post, which I did. And in December 2007, I went for the interview at Marty Sport. And on the panel was Jackie Visser, Dr. Renal Venter, Karen, and one of the committee members from the netball club. I think just before the varsity closed, she called to say that my interview was successful. So I started at Marty Sport as a netball administrator in 2008. Towards the end of the year, Jackie asked Karen if there's any chance that I could possibly do the code management of some of the smaller codes at Marty Sport. So Karen graciously gave me the opportunity, which just meant that she had to now look for a netball administrator again. And
beginning of 2009, I started as a junior sport club manager on contract. And then I started with the cycling, volleyball, water polo, underwater sport, chess, table tennis, kendo, judo, and fencing. Now, when I started with water polo, I didn't know that they had a different costume. Now, if you ask me about water polo, I can tell you a swimming costume and a water polo costume is two very different things. And then late in 2009, Jackie said to me that my post would need to be advertised, so I would need to reapply for it, obviously because I was on contract. But so that was also successful, and in 2010 was the first time since my studies that I had a permanent job. So I started at Vati Sport as a junior sport manager, and I'm still there today. And I did a quick count. So of the 31 codes that Marty Sport had, I wrote it down. I have been involved with everything except 8. So the 8 that I have not been involved in at Marty Sport is rugby, hockey, athletics, parasport, taekwondo, football, equestrian, and cheerleading. Everything else I've touched on, or I've dabbed in, or I've been with. And then just to end off, I've been fortunate enough. Sport is about networking and meeting people and putting yourself out there, volunteering where you can. And I grabbed every single opportunity my course allowed me to. I've been supported by strong, determined women in sport and men who have steered my career, provided me with guidance and opportunity. And I'm fortunate that this is my passion, this is where I work, this is what I enjoy. This is me. And a lot of students who studied sport are no longer in sport. So when I hear stories like Mel and even Noku and Antiswa and Sean, everybody came through sport management, and we are all fortunate enough to still be working here. So that's me.
Thank you, Candice. I think, Mr. Laka, that's a cue for you. Time for us to give Candice one of the 8 codes she hasn't managed yet. I believe that Dumisani is online. Dumisani?
Apologies, Ilhaam, it's Dale here. They were referring to the wrong Dumisani, so
all right,
we apologize.
Okay. All right. May I ask Nandi Putelezi from WITS to tell her story? Very, very, very interesting story. So over to you, Nandi.
First of all, thank you so much for the opportunity. I don't take it lightly when I'm asked to, share my story, because you never know who you're going to inspire or touch in terms of your story. But basically, I started off at UJ. I was a student there. I completed my sports communication and sports management degree. And in my honors year, I was asked to coordinate a tournament at Doornfontein campus. I believe it was the first one that we had. We had netball, we had indigenous games. It was a beautiful day, and I feel so happy that I got to be, part of the first people to start tournaments there as well. So that's where it started. I then went on to work with the UJ netball team as the second team manager and assistant coach. I went with the USA team last year, 2018, and we won bronze in the USA netball B section. So that was quite exciting for me as well. And I then went on to volunteer for my Township School Foundation, which is based in Soweto. And this was while I was still looking for, something permanent and all of that. So there I got involved in a school holiday program, as well as the academic, I think we called it the after school program, where we helped the kids with their homework, and then we went on to do sports-based programs in the afternoons. And then during the school holidays in June, we had a week long of sports. So I'm specializing in netball. Then I did netball clinics. We then went on to have a tournament in netball, and then there were guys that did cricket, soccer. And I think that moment, just being there, it was actually training ground for me. I didn't realize at the time that it was actually training ground, you know, just to broaden my perspective in sports and handling different projects. And then I moved on to WITS as an intern in 2018, I think, in August. So that's when I started with WITS. And I started off in rugby, funny enough, to assist with the rugby club. And I was asking who's doing the social media. So I asked around and they said a couple of people were handling the accounts. And then I decided to, you know, offer to try this whole social media thing out. And I think it turned out quite perfectly because that's where I find myself now. I then applied for the project coordinator post that they advertised last year, which I'm so blessed to have currently. And yeah, I still have a lot to learn, and I'm just looking forward to all the things that I'm learning, because I feel like in life, you never have to get to a point where you're complacent and you're like, yes, you've made it and whatever. But I'm always about learning and exposing myself. And I believe that's what really exposes you to different opportunities. So I think that's what I'm about. I'm not about boxing myself and saying, okay, I'm just going to focus on social media or what I'm supposed to do. I'm always about learning, growing, and I hope to inspire people one day. So that's just my story.
Thank you very much, Nandi. So from sport into media and communications, interesting move. I hope that Yonela and Tongana from Walter Sisulu University is online. Yonela?
Morning, everyone.
Hi there.
Hello, Ilham.
Hi there. Yonela, can you please switch on your camera?
Hello, everyone. My name is Yonela Tongana. I'm from Walter Sisulu University, Butterworth campus. My journey, I'm an internal auditing graduate, but my journey started during my first year at university when I joined a karate team. And then I fell in love right away with karate because I was staying my res was next to a hall where they were training. So one day I decided to just join the team and I fell in love. And by that time, codes like karate were not fully recognized at university. It was codes like rugby, football, like almost male sports that was like the codes that were recognized. So I told myself that, yes, you know what, I need to be, and I need to be a captain of this team so that I can be their voice. That's when I became the captain, and I got a chance to go to the offices. And then at that time, it was Mr. Banzisi Yongwana who was the head of sports. So yeah, and then I became the captain, and later I became part of the sports council. And there I was saying there are other codes that are not recognized. Like I was making an example of karate, and I told myself, you know what, I need to be in those offices. I know I'm studying internal auditing, but I think I need to be there in those offices. And then I think Mr. Siongwana also saw a potential in me, and I was assisting in the office for quite some time. I was an admin assistant during his time, and we were working to like me and him in the offices, and he would take me to the meetings, PUSA meetings, and I would be like, oh, this is not me. Now I want to be in the office, and because I'm a quiet person, I'm shy, so I thought, no, this is not me. But as time goes by, I fell in love with sports. And 6 years down the line, Mr. Siongwana retired, and I was the only one in the office. So I had to be in the office by myself, and they were saying I should be acting, and I was like, so. And then I acted in I ran the office by myself for 6 months, and because of the structure, it was only one sports officer for the campus. So after that, I served in USA Karate, I think for 3 terms, and I managed a team of karate, USA Karate, which participated in All Africa tournament in Zimbabwe, and I fell in love with sports. That's when I said to myself, no, you know what? I think this is where I belong. I then later became the sports officer, and I could say I'm proud that during my tenure I managed to bring up sports like boxing, karate students and expose them into international and national participation, of which by that time I thought it's only those codes like football and rugby that were given that opportunity. So I told myself, no, I should be promoting women's sport and the small codes that were in the development. So I also got an opportunity to go to Japan, Tunisia with IKO karate team, and that was a plus for me. And I think now I have a dream in karate that in sports that I want to be a sports lawyer because I'm currently doing the FIFA CSI Executive Sports Management, and I hope to do my FIFA Masters and go the route of sports lawyer because I want to be able to present and negotiate for my brothers and sisters in sport, so and make sure that they get deals, better deals, and are not exploited. So since I'm a quiet and shy person, my first step, I decided to join a Toastmasters club with the help of Melissa Au, just to improve my public speaking. So yeah, also on the 5th of December, I will be formally receiving my black belt in karate. So yeah, that's my journey. Thank you so much.
Don't mess with a quiet to be soon sports lawyer. Because of that black belt.
Thank you so much,
Thank you very much, Janella. Colleagues, so when we were watching the clip at the start, you saw the different scenes in the clip, and for those of you that haven't watched the movie, The Hidden Figures, I'm asking you to watch that movie because tears will roll, there will be some anger, but I think you're definitely going to walk away with something special. Grant, are you ready for us to participate in our first poll?
Yes, sure, Ilham. If I could just ask Nandi if she wouldn't mind turning off her video feed. I'm currently receiving her video feed as well as Ilham's. That would be great. Thanks.
Great.
I'm just going to share my screen quickly. Okay. Can I just get indication if you can see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so everybody, please, if you wouldn't mind picking up your smartphones or logging in on your internet browser and going to the address at the top of the page. It is www.menti.com. And you will be required to input a code in order to get access to the poll. That code is 5475503. And then we have a whole bunch of choices there, and you need to identify the top 3 areas that you believe are barriers for women in your own environments. So if you wouldn't mind completing that as soon as possible, this should start populating live and we'll be able to see where everyone's areas kind of lie. We have had 26 responders so far. If those that haven't responded yet, if they can jump on to menti.com, input the code, which is at the top of the screen, and just identify the top 3 areas that you believe are barriers for women in your own environments, and try and complete that within the next minute or so. That would be great. We have 30 responders so far.
Grant, you're good to go for us with the results? We give us another 30 seconds. Okay, colleagues, voting is closed. Look at that result. Very interesting. 25%, 24%. The next one, 17%, 13%, 12%, and 9%. So I think the 9% is a good indication that our current program management, there seem not to be many challenges. Patriarchy seems to be a major challenge. I think it's not just for us in our space. If we move externally of our university environments, it's there, very, very right. Women not supporting women. Ms. Matlangu, you need to take up that comment that you made at the start when you were telling your story. No leadership support. Also one that we should be concerned about, and working in silos. I think we have some work to do, colleagues. A lack of affordable and appropriate childcare or family care. Yes, I am almost happy to see that didn't make it to the top 3. And yes, then I do think that across the universities, you know, it's very clear that access and support as far as our different programs are concerned, that is in place, and very, very positive outcome to see that as women that we are comfortable with the current support that we're getting. Okay, Grant, thank you for that. Colleagues, I want to ask you to make time to stand up and give yourself a body break so that you don't sit for the full hour and a half. I'm going to ask colleagues now to just switch on your cameras so that we can take our picture. Trish and Eunice, if you're online and ready to help us with the picture, let me know. Colleagues, as many of us, please switch on your camera.
Ilhaam, may I just interrupt for a second? Could
Yes.
we do 2? One,
Okay.
if we could ask all our speakers to come on, because there are only a limited number of images at a time. And then the second one, everyone.
Okay, so are we going to then, because I didn't give them a heads up on who's going to speak when, Trish. I wanted to keep this very casual and relaxed. So can we change that? Whoever's able to switch on the cameras, if they can do that now. And if you don't switch your camera on now, that means that you need to be part of the next group. But yes, I agree. Those colleagues who spoke earlier on, can you go first? Nomsa, where are you? Nomsa?
Yes, I've switched on my camera. Maybe
Okay.
Teams doesn't like me.
There we go. There we go. Who else? Trish, even if you take the picture, I think it looks odd, you and your niece. Switch on your cameras, at least your faces will show, and not your initials. Dale, switch on your camera. There we go, Dale. Okay, Eunice, your hand is raised. Are you covered? Eunice is our one of our media and comms colleagues. She probably wants to get
actually wanted to type something and then I raised my hand. I just want to say that I'm ready to take the picture.
That's 100 rand. 100 rand in the basket. All right, you need to switch on your camera, please, so that we can just have everyone. Grant, you too. You might appear on both pictures, Grant. There we go. Okay. Whoever's taking the picture, just tell me when you're done. Cheers. Good smiles.
Almost done, just one more.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I'm done now. We can go back to talking interesting stories.
All right. Okay, thanks very much, colleagues. I'm going to ask Ms. Kluti, Ilhaam Kluti from UWC, to tell her story. I know she had some challenges to log on, but I think she's sorted. Ilhaam, are you there? Okay, I think whilst we wait for Ilhaam, Itlali from University of Fort Hare, are you online?
Yes, ma'am.
There we go.
Oh, thank you, Ilhaam.
Nice
good morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mihlali Kazi from the University of Fort Hare. My journey started at a primary level when I was playing netball, and then I went to high school. I also played netball, indigenous games, and I did track and field. And then in 2009, I was asked by the coach from the University of Fort Hare to join the team in Fort Hare. So in 2010, I went to Fort Hare and I started there. And then still I played netball. And then from 2009 till 2013, I got selected for border under 19. Border netball under 19, under 21, and the senior team, and we'll play for SA Netball Championships. And in the university level, I also get awards like Players of the Year. So I was like, good, maybe. And then in 2015, I stopped playing. I became a manager. So whilst I was still doing my postgrad in Fort Hare, whilst I was still a netball team manager, I went to the sports department and I asked to volunteer so that I can learn an administrative side. And I was given 2 codes from the department, and so that's where I fell in love with university sport, because I knew that I had a responsibility of developing students in sport. And I would make sure that my codes don't suffer the same way I did whilst I was still playing in terms of resources at the university. And then in 2016, I signed the contract at department, and I was given many codes by Mr. Lange, who's my boss. And I became a script reader of Varsity Shield games at UFH. And also for staff sport, I got elected to be a deputy secretary of staff sport. And then in 2017, I became an event manager for the Varsity Shield games in Fort Hare. And then also I was an event manager for a national marathon that we hosted here at school. And then again, I got selected for General Secretary for Staff Sport, and we hosted SADC countries for Sausa tournament. And then also, I am into mentoring students more special who wants to learn more in administrative side. So I do the mentoring for students. And also my vision dream will be, I would like to see more of our Eastern Cape athletes in the national teams, and also my UFH athletes in the national teams. And then I would like to see our athletes in being exposed internationally. And I have started that project already, because I have taken the whole ladies rugby team to France last year. And I would like to see many women dominating in high positions of sports, because as women, we have an ability of making things happen, more especially when it comes to developing young talent. I would love to see sport growing, and yeah, that's about it from my side. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ms. Lale. I was hoping that you would tell us a little bit about your social media presence. I know that you and Melissa, you guys have started a very interesting initiative, and thank you for that, you know.
Yeah, okay. Okay, should I share it now? Oh, okay. For me, I came up with the idea of giving a platform for sport officers to tell their stories, sharing their journeys in Facebook, because the motive behind is to motivate people who still wants to be involved in sport, but not so good in playing or coaching or umpiring even. So I felt that as sports officers, we are not given a chance to actually tell our stories. And most of people, they don't know that there are people who are working behind the scenes to actually make sport successfully. So that was the whole motive behind the idea. And of course, I have a partner who's Mel, that we are doing everything together. Yes, thank you.
Being online, Dale, I just wanted you to double check for me. But if she's not, then I'm going to ask Shonisani Masuta to share her story. Shoni, I've noticed that you're online and joining us from Russia. Shoni, are you there? Maybe she's still making a cup of coffee. Okay, I think, let me just check. Carol Adams from Varsity College, are you at your mic?
Yes, Ilhaam, I'm here.
Wonderful. Please switch on your camera.
No problem.
I just hope that most of our colleagues have joined us. Carol, before you start,
okay.
I obviously don't know how many people are back at the desk or wherever they are.
No problem.
Grant, I think the 3 minutes have passed. Am I right?
Ilham, I think it's okay to start. We are recording the presentation, so if they miss a few minutes and they'd like to catch up, they can catch up in the social media channels.
Carol, over to you.
Thank you so much, Ilhaam, and thanks for the opportunity to share in this amazing platform. I think it's a great opportunity, and it's a wonderful idea to share the stories, because like you said, we so often don't get the time to pause and to be able to do something like this. So thank you. So my journey started in university sports in 2006 at the IIE's Varsity College. But I think like most of us, the sports has always been in our blood. I mean, from little, I lived for sports practices, lived for sports tours. I was a swimmer and a water polo player, and that's really been my thing. But I played just about anything. I played basketball, softball. If I needed somebody, so school needed somebody to run in the 800 meters. You got to put your hand up. And I think those experiences is what's kind of guided me to where I am today. Also, when I was at varsity, I played the third side varsity hockey, and that really was where it reminded me, it sparked my passion. My swimming and my water polo was the competitive side of things, where I toured internationally, but that varsity hockey pub and that varsity hockey here is the social side of things. And to me, that's where it's important to have that balanced lifestyle while doing your studies. And so that's where it got to me to where I was today and my journey at Varsity College. So we started in 2006 and we were very small. We were a brand new member of USA. I think we only participated in 1 or 2 sports codes. And we kind of thought, like, how do we do this? We're a small institution. We've got lack of facilities, we do have our challenges, but I wanted to be able to provide my students with the same opportunities, to provide them with as many sporting opportunities as possible. So we kind of had a 2-pronged attack. We kind of went, I said, so if we went on a sports life initiative, where again, it kind of went with my ethos of a balanced lifestyle. If you have a sports life initiative where it's a sport that you can do for the rest of your life. So I thought with students, if you didn't want to be part of a team and you wanted to just, focus on your studies, it was about don't do nothing. Make sure you do get involved, but do something individual. Do golf, surfing, canoeing, something that's exciting outdoors. So we bought many canoes and mountain bikes and we did all of that. And one of my highlights from that was the beginners program. Seeing people learn how to ride a bicycle and the many learn to surf programs at our coastal campuses. The next challenge that I faced was around the team sports. Like, where do we go to? We've got campuses across the country. And for me, again, it was about providing our students with that competitive element and the social elements of the team sports clubs. So then we kind of looked at the centers of excellence. So we've kind of, we started with the rugby club, and we've now grown to 7, sort of major sports clubs at Varsity College. And as I said, like, each campus has their own niche and their own space to grow. And for me, it was kind of, at this point that I was really proud of the teams that were able to sort of grow, through this journey with me. And at Varsity College, I kind of felt, well, I've got to this point and I wanted to again serve the sports community that I'm involved in within the university. So I then was given the opportunity to serve on the USA Aquatics Committee. And again, I really am grateful for this opportunity, because it again, allowed me to get back into the sports that I really loved, with swimming and water polo. I mean, as head of sports, we can't have any favorites. All our sports clubs are our favorites, but serving on the University Aquatics Committee allowed me to have that, sort of time back. And I was also given the opportunity to go to the World Student Games, both in Taipei with the men's team and in Napoli with the swimming team. That's where my cap has come from the Swiss swimming team. But I know that Nomsa and Ilhaam will remember, one of my dreams has always been to go to the Olympics, but that World Student Games and watching those students win the gold medals and just to experience that, as I said, I was very grateful that I was able to do that, and to see our students excel in that stage while studying is just the epitome of that balanced lifestyle that I think we all strive towards. And it definitely kind of lays a platform and a great foundation for our students to go into the working world and be successful. So so then kind of my journey with the USA Aquatics Committee kind of led me to also being on the subcommittee for the constitutional matters. So I'm really great to be able to kind of get stuck into that. But I think in my whole journey, I couldn't have done it without the team that surrounds me. I really am so grateful for the amazing team that I have, not just my administrators who are super amazing, but also the coaches, the support staff, and the students. You know, our journey with the IIE's Varsity College has been an interesting one, but our students have been there, and I think they've believed in our vision that we do want to be able to kind of give them an amazing opportunity. So I think that's really my journey, is about wanting to serve and give back to the sport that gave me so much. I really honestly believe in servant leadership. It's really something that, like, I kind of, you know, sort of put to my team, and to the students that serve on our own sports clubs. You know, I think that's also for me a really important part of the university sports space, that we have. We guide and we mentor our students to be able to be leaders, not only in the university space, but in the sort of corporate world or the other space that we find ourselves in. So yeah, so that's really my journey in a nutshell. And again, Ilhaam, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share it.
Thanks. You need to take the credit that you are the most successful swimming manager in the history of University Sports South Africa, based on the number of medals that we won last year. So you forgot to tell us that.
Well, it was definitely the students, but thank you, Ilhaam. It was an amazing opportunity, that's for sure.
Great stuff. I'm now going to ask my colleague Zanele Ndodana, our Marty's netball head coach, to share her story. Zanele.
Thanks, Boss. Good morning, everybody. Wow, it's such a great honor just to, you know, to take time out and listen to all these amazing stories that these phenomenal women are sharing. Thank you so much, Boss, for making this happen, you know, getting us sort of in a way around the table so we can really just share who we are and what we've been through. And yeah, so my stories started when obviously I was in primary school. I started at Alpha Primary School in the Eastern Cape in Port Elizabeth in Galvindale. There I didn't know that there was a sport called netball. All we did at Alpha was run. We had athletics. We had the white house, yellow house, blue house, green house, and we had those days at the Oval where all the houses would compete against each other. And then I left Alpha Primary School and went to Blue Bay Primary, and that's where I got. Can you guys please close the doors? So I got introduced to netball and tennis and athletics. Basically was an all-rounder. My first netball match, I was 10 years old. I played for a coach called Mrs. And I remember our first match, we played against a school in Warmer, and we lost 8-4, and I was the goal attack or goal shooter of my team. And I remember on our way back from Warmer, going back to school, now on our school bus, my teammates were crying because we lost this match 8-4, and it was actually my fault because I was missing the shots, you know. And I said to my teacher, Mrs. Yeli, I think I don't want to play the sport. I don't want to play netball. You know, if I'm going to be the reason why my teammates are crying, I think I'll rather maybe stick to tennis and individual sport and do athletics. And then she said to me, no, I suggest you keep playing because I believe that one day you'll. And I've never looked back. So I started playing at the age of 10, played for every provincial level, under 13, under 16, under 21, under 19, ultimately made it to the national senior team. I went to high school in Victoria Park High School in PE, and there I was so blessed to have a coach and an accounting teacher in Mrs. McLeod, who held my hand and pushed me beyond my limits. At times I felt she was so hard on me and had these high expectations of me. And at that age, you know, you don't understand why someone is always expecting you to do more than everyone else. And it's only years later, when I matriculated in 2001 from VP, I went back as a speaker at the sports awards, and I actually thanked her for never giving up on me and seeing in me what I didn't see in myself at that. So my journey as an netball player really was, I was very blessed with coaches and people who saw my talent and held my hand and walked the journey with me, asking for absolutely nothing in return. And I think what they got in return was just to see how far I ultimately got, you know, playing for the country, which is the ultimate level for any athlete. And then when I went to university, I went to PTCon, I studied sport management. I was very fortunate to have lecturers who were so supportive in was staying in what's his name now, but he retired and said he's going to go and buy a farm and sip wine and watch his toenails grow. Maybe Mel can remind me who that is. Yes, Yaku Oosthuizen. Yes, thanks, Mel. Yaku Oosthuizen. And then I went to P Technikon. Then after P Technikon, I did my BTech. Well, we merged, and then we became Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University, and got my BTech in sport management. I was fortunate to have lecturers who allowed me to play and also were very lenient in when I can hand in assignments and write special tests. If I'm traveling with the team, I'd write the test when I came back. So they encouraged me to play sport and also be able to study at the same time. So got sick, and then I was fortunate to work. My first job, I was a PA to Bernice Butlian, who was the manager of the Eastern Cape Academy of Sport. She's now currently in Australia, Australian Institute. I think she's the CEO there. And then after that, I got an opportunity to, straight after that, I got an opportunity, I applied for a job at the Nelson Mandela University in the sports department. And I got that as a sport manager. Chess, tennis, table tennis, squash. I like racket sports, you know, basically. And I was very fortunate in that department to have someone like Stephen Thomas, who became sort of like indirectly, but I sort of forced him into the position of being to a soundboard, you know, always challenging me. And Dr. Richard Stretch, may he still rest in peace, he was the director of sport. And so Stephen basically understood the character and personality that I am. And I would sit with him for hours in his office, and I'll say to him, Mr. T, I'm struggling. I'm struggling with being kept inside an office. I'm struggling with sitting behind a desk and doing all the admin. Yes, I studied sport management, but I feel I want to be out. I want to be outside. I want to see the sun, because our office is also extremely cold. Mel can attest to that as well, you know. So I said to him, Mr. T, I don't know, you know, I've been here for 9 years. I think I've reached the ceiling from sport manager. What's the next step and everything? And then, geez, out of nowhere, and this was after of my friends saying, Zanele, you were born in PE, you studied in PE, you worked in PE, everything is in PE. You need to get out and see South Africa. Go anywhere. You know, be away from your family, be away from your friends, just explore different cities. And the one thing that really did keep me here is the fact that my son is here. You know, I've got a 12-year-old son, and he's everything to me. So to be away from him was something that I just couldn't wrap my head around. But fortunately,
I think we're losing Zanele. Are you there, Zanele?
Yes, I'm still here.
There we go. Okay.
Okay. And I got the opportunity. I got it from Karen Swart, who is still the netball manager at Marty Sport. And she said to me, well, we're going to fly you up. You're going to come to Cape Town. You're going to come to Stellenbosch, and we're just going to show you what's happening around Marty's. And I was just like, whoa, okay, this is it. Now, this is an opportunity for me to be out of the office, what I've been wanting and praying for, to be a head coach. So I started exploring the whole netball coaching side of things. And I got to the University of Stellenbosch 2017. I must say it was an uphill battle. I laugh and I joke about it now when I speak to my boss, Ilhaam Groenewald and Sean and everyone else, that I cried, and Jerry, like, Tatu Jerry, I would walk into that office without making an appointment. I'm just there. I'm walking in. I don't care if he's available. He's just going to hear me out. Walking to his law office. I mean, you know, there's protocol, but I just didn't observe any protocol. And the beauty about it, you allowed me to just be me, and I could come into the office and express my frustrations or my happiness and whatever. And 27, but I grew in this whole coaching thing because I've always been an assistant coach in netball. I've never really had my own team that I would say I'm leading and I'm building a program, you know, and then we sort of journey. And that's what it's been like since 2017, 2018, and every year things just got better and better and better. The team started like doing well. We started seeing results. You know, the relationship between myself and my players and the whole management team, and the way that the Marty's Netball HP program just really allows you as a coach to build the team the way you want to see it built, and the support that I was getting really was key for us to have a very successful 2019. And I must say it was a brilliant feeling to be called up as the team of the year, because rugby at Marty's wins everything. So in 2019, netball really were just amazing. We took almost everything at the sports awards, and I know even the rugby manager came to me and said, "No, coach, you guys were good this year." This was in 2019. I said, "No, you guys deserve this." So it's been really work in progress, but I've been really blessed in my journey, and it's had its ups and downs. But I'm in an institution. I'm challenged constantly, and that makes it brings out the best in me. It reveals who I am. And if I hadn't been in that space, I wouldn't have known what I'm able and capable of doing. So, yeah, that's more or less my story and my journey. Thank you.
Sorry, Ilhaam, your mic
Sorry,
is
I'm muted. Yeah, that's 200 rand, no, in the basket. I said, Zanele, you are stuck with us, so hang in there. Apologies from Skluti. There seemed to be a problem in an area. They're working on the fiber network, so apologies from her. So I'm going to ask Shoni. I've noticed that you are online, Masuta, to tell a story, and she's joining us from Russia. That's if I missed. I hope you're still there. I hope I didn't miss you coming home. Over to you, Shoni. Please switch on your camera.
My camera is on. Can you hear me? Do you hear me well?
I can hear you. There you are. There you are.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for doing this. Yes, I am still in Russia. We'll be back home as soon as the borders open, but for now I'll just enjoy the summer around this side of the country. I think back then when I was young and in primary school and I did athletics, I did not realize where it would actually bring me, you know. So if you were to ask me where it started, looking back at it, I never knew that it would have to trace back to my primary school times. And then I moved to high school. I also did athletics. I moved all the way to, when I was doing high school, I never wanted to go to university. That has never been part of my dreams. I just wanted to dance. I was doing ballroom and Latin dance. And I decided I'm going to do this professionally. So after matric, I then decided, let me go into school. I went to moving into dance in Newtown in Gauteng, and I did my 1-year program. And the dance school also had a company which dances professionally. So they offered me a sport after my completion, and I accepted. So me being raised by my maternal grandmother in Soweto, a Klip town, I decided, let me go visit my mother in Venda. Let me just say hi to her, tell her the good news that I'll be working. I'm finally getting my dream coming up. And literally the day when I was supposed to take a bus back to Gauteng, my mom said, go wake your sister up, go to the University of Venda, go register for whatever is there. That is how I ended up at university, majoring in Bachelor's of Social Work. I never liked it, but I did it because my mother said, you are not going back. My plan was immediately when I'm done with the 4th year, I'm going to hand her back the degree and I'm going to live my life doing something that I want and something that I'm passionate about. 4th year this time was not my mother who said no, but I think the universe. I had a car accident when we were on our way back from a dance competition from Polokwane back into the University of Venda. So I broke my right femur into 2. So it then meant I can't dance anymore. But that was not the major blow for me. When doctors, I think over a period of 7 years, they kept telling me, you can't dance, you can't do this, you can't do that. Everything that you used to do in sport, you can't do anymore. So with that, I think it took away everything that I thought I was passionate about. And I found myself just doing things just to get by. So I ended up going back to school again to do my master's in public health, which also I did not, it wouldn't be something that I wanted to pursue. Long story short, the person that literally steered me in the right direction was Mr. Thaba. Patrick Thaba is the sports administrator at the University of Venda. When I was still learning how to walk again, he decided, let me teach you sports, let me teach you administration. That's when I actually get to meet the user family for the very first time. Because of him, he then said, let's go to a meeting. All I want you to do when you get there is listen and participate. I got there, I listened and I participated. And I liked it. I liked it so much because when I was at university, I also did politics. So I sat as the deputy president of the SRC and the provincial secretary of SASCO in Limpopo. So the AGMs of USA had that political vibe in them. You had robust debates, you have people arguing on the constitution, you had new bylaws being introduced, you have all this, it felt like home. And before I knew it, I was exposed to women that were so strong, women that I've not bumped into before. We had yourself, Miss Green, Miss Ilhaam. It stuck. And then we had Sis Nom. So we had ladies that were so strong, together with the students, populace that were there at that point, Boma Kosandile Majake and so forth. And I then decided, let me learn as much as I can. But even then, within the first year, I felt I still wanted to dance. That feeling never left. Long story short, I got elected into USA. I served as a student assessor in the NEC of USA, which taught me how to behave when you are in meetings, how to conduct yourself, how not to sleep in meetings. That must be said out loud, especially from the student perspective. I think that's one thing that the officials or the administrators, the staff that served within the USA NEC will always tell us, do not sleep. People such as Mbadla Gaye and Mr. Jerilaka would always say, you were sleeping. And I think that's where we took it from, to actually conduct ourselves better and to learn leadership was because we were given a chance to actually sit within executive committees of USA and of the CUXA. So I currently serve, after USA, I then went to serve into CUXA, which is the Confederation of University and College Sports Association, which is within Region 5 of Africa. Over time, I went on to FISU, which I am currently serving as a student ambassador. And all this happened because when you are in federation as a student population, you are allowed to voice out your points and opinions regardless of who's there, and you learn it from a young perspective. You grow up with it. When you go international or when you go zonal, you now know how to carry yourself and how to behave and how to bring in bylaws that you'd want to be introduced or your constitutional amendments in place. I then also, through USA again, I think I need to always look back and say USA has literally been a giant that I've been standing on. I then applied for a master's in sport administration with the Russian International Olympic University, which I just completed in this early June this year. And it has been a pleasure for me to actually come to Russia, because when you are within South Africa, you know sport from the perspective of South Africa. You know sport from the University of Venda. You walk out of the University of Venda, you get to tax, it's a different picture. You get to visit, it's a different picture. You circulate all the institution, the picture is different, but all in all, you are bound and you are working towards the improvement, transformation, and development of sports. But when you are outside the country and you are interacting with other people, you begin to realize what is missing within South Africa. You also begin to realize your strength as a country. You begin to realize the strength of the sports recreation South Africa as an institution and as a governmental entity. And you begin to realize how the general community perceives sport. For instance, you walk within Russia, you now find your sport facilities, outdoor sport facilities, literally everywhere in every single park. There's that. So there's that appreciation from sport, not only from a competitive side, but also from a general every single day living. And that, I think, is one of the things that SRSA has been trying to strive towards when they say we are aiming for an active nation. So apart from being competitive, we also want to become that active nation. So it equips you to actually say, these are the things that I'd want to actually take back home and make South Africa better and keep it performing even more further than what it is doing within sport and in different countries. One other thing that I just would like to share about my journey is volunteerism. In all the positions that I've held, in all the NECs that I've sat in, it has been on a volunteering basis. And some people might look at volunteering and they'll think, no, there's no money, there's no that, but there's no telling how far it can actually launch you. So I'd like to see, to just attend to what Nomsa was saying by the things, the contribution that you'd want to bring home. If I'd like to see a situation where we build a volunteering base within South Africa. We have student sport leaders who are very opinionated and interactive and proactive within our institutions. So if you can build a volunteering base all the way from your university to national, from those students, they come with a potential opportunity of building sports even further than what it is. They are one of the strongest. FISU uses the same method at this point in time. And I must say that through the ambassador programs or the volunteering program, they have managed to literally plant themselves even further deeper into the countries or their member associations. And that is just one of the things that I would like to see. And while I'm here, I'm also exposed to various mega events, your motor racing, everything, different motor, because one of the things that Russia does, or one of the things that they have been very good at, is hosting mega events. But it has always been a question when you need to look at South Africa and say, where are we in terms of hosting? When is our next mega event? We did the FIFA World Cup. We were successful. I think we also shocked ourselves in the process. Why can't we have more of those and build on to that? And I think I'd want to see a situation maybe 5-10 years from now, where we have them continuously keeping on in different cities and not just stationing them within Gauteng and the Western Cape as our stronghold at this point. So all in all, that is just me. I'm not sure. Oh yeah, every single month, one of the current projects that I'm doing, okay, I'm not currently employed, but I keep myself busy with volunteerism. My recent project was moderating the panel discussion during the FISU World Forum, where the topic for that panel discussion was the situation of sport and university sport in the time of COVID-19. The speakers were the Secretary General and CEO of FISU, who is Mr. Eric Centroid, and UNESCO's Chief Youth, and in the sports section, Dr. Alexandra Skislik. So they were the ones who were participating in it. And on a monthly basis, we just hold webinars and Instagram interviews with different catalysts that are making a huge progress in sport. In short, that is just me. Ilham, you are muted. That is another 100.
There was an indication that you were supposed not to greet us in English.
Привет, как дела? Привет, как дела? Меня зовут Шони, я в Южной Африке, я студентка в Олимпийский университет. Я очень нравится Сочи. Я скучаю дома.
Keep on flying that flag. Keep on flying that flag. Colleagues, I want to say thank you very much. We are running seriously out of time. I thought that we were going to have time for an open discussion, but unfortunately not. But I've made some comments. I've probably tried to summarize your different stories, and I have about 58 points that I've listed, and I'm going to share this with you post our event today. So Grant also posted the result in our chat box for you. So have a look at that and think about what is it that we're going to do. The President asked us to move beyond just today's conversations, and I've noted that as well. Really some wonderful stories, and what comes out is the importance of volunteerism, student leadership, moving from student leadership into junior management positions, middle management, and then ultimately senior management. The exposure to development, provincial, national, international competitions, and being able to have a balanced lifestyle, and the importance and the reminder that we are here to make sure that our students go for graduation, the importance of family support and the passion being shared across the board and not just by ourselves in our own spaces, and the importance of sport to go beyond the competitive nature. So colleagues, thank you once again very much. It's been really a pleasure to host you. Awesome to listen to your various stories. And I think that we should do this more often. So without further delay, I'm going to ask colleague Grant to just share the last clip of our event today. And if some of you need to rush, it's okay. But I thought I just wanted to leave you with this song. Colleague Grant, over to you.